Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to class number 7 of Building a Better Us. This week, we are going to focus on some diet trends. I just pulled out 5 different diet trends. I'd just like to review them with everybody. Please send along if you have any. Please send me along any questions or whatnot that you might have connected with them. So, what I'd like to do is just go ahead and just start, taking, about 7 minutes on each of the 5 diet trends that I have here, and just kind of go over them and point out some pros and cons, point out, applicability. Is this diet something that is good for me, and what you should really be paying attention to if you are considering really focusing your nutrition specifically on one of these diets. So, what I'd like to do is I'd like to share my screen and we'll start out with the first diet. I think we'll start, way back with the kind of it's not as though it was the first diet um, ever, but it's the diet that is focused on some of our earliest nutrition needs. And that is called the paleo diet, which occurred during the Paleolithic era. All right, so I'm going to share my screen here right now. What is the paleo diet? It's obviously a diet that was planned based on foods similar to what might have been eaten during the Paleolithic era, which dates from approximately 2.5 million to 10,000 years ago. It basically consists of things like lean meats, fish, fruit, veggies, nuts, seeds, foods that in the past could be obtained by hunting and gathering. We have really, we really changed some things when we started farming. And foods that are generally found in the paleo diet are not going to be foods that you might necessarily find growing in your garden, although those are extremely healthy. The paleo diet really focuses on foods that were within that era. And the paleo diet limits foods that became common when farming emerged about 10,000 years ago. Uh, these foods include, the dairy products, legumes, grains. Back in the caveman days, they didn't have, they weren't baking bread, different things like that, and they certainly weren't processing cheeses and things along those lines. Other names for the paleo diet include the Paleolithic diet, the Stone Age diet, hunter-gatherer diet, and the caveman diet. So, what the purpose of the diet is, it's really to convert back to kind of the way that early humans ate. The diet's reasoning is that the human body is genetically mismatched to the modern food diet that emerged with the farming practices, an idea also known as the discordance hypothesis, which is definitely another big discussion, but you can certainly look that up if you choose to and do a little more research. Um, Farming really changed what people ate and how they ate it, really. And you know when we started doing all of the farming, it just brought a lot more foods and options into our diet, and the paleo diet really doesn't focus on those other foods that we brought into with the farming era. What do you eat on the paleo diet? Scroll right down here. The common things that you eat are the fruits, veggies, nuts, seeds, lean meats, especially grass-fed animals or wild game, fish, especially those rich in omega-3 fatty acids. And in past classes, we've talked a lot about that. The fish such as salmon, mackerel, albacore, tuna, the oils from fruits and nuts, such as olive oil and walnut oil. And definitely the foods, and we'll point this out in most all the diets, the foods, that you want to avoid are the grains, such as wheat, oats, barley, Many people suffer from what's called IBS right now, irritable bowel syndrome, and they need to really, really be careful how much grains they're taking in because it really doesn't settle well with many people right now. Um, other foods to avoid are the dairy products, refined sugar, salt, definitely potatoes, highly processed foods in general. So, what I really liked about this was that they gave a great example because we can talk about a lot of diets all day long, but it kind of boils right down to people are wondering, oh, well, what do I eat then? What can I eat? And so here I just kind of put together a little chart of what a day's diet would look like on the paleo diet. For breakfast, you would have broiled salmon and cantaloupe. And I can imagine many people are like, wow, for breakfast? We have really socially created this misconception for ourselves that we have to eat breakfast foods for breakfast. And typically, if you try to eat what we think of as the typical breakfast food, it's going to be stocked full of carbohydrates and probably simple sugars. um, but it's okay to definitely, eat some protein for breakfast. We That really helps to jumpstart us in the morning, specifically women. So eating protein for breakfast is quite understandable, and it's quite feasible thing to do. I've commonly talked in a lot of our classes before how I'll eat chicken and fruit for breakfast quite often. And to maybe get out of the mindset of the fact that we need to have something like donuts or cereal or toast or pancakes. I mean, just that list in itself, it's very high in simple sugars and very high in carbohydrates. The typical lunch would be, lean pork, salad that consisted of probably romaine, carrot, cucumber, tomatoes, walnuts, and lemon juice. Lemon juice is a great salad topper. Just to squirt a little bit on there, it gives it a little bit of zing, especially if you're not one for really enjoying dressing, which would be a good thing. Just to add a little bit of zip there. For dinner, you could have lean beef, steamed broccoli, and salad, like the salad above, and maybe some strawberries. My little son is learning in school right now, as he pointed out to me, that if you have a colorful plate, you're probably eating healthy. And it's a really fundamental idea, but if you think about it, it's very true. If you look down at your plate and you have an extremely colorful plate with, some fruit, like some strawberries and a salad, and then you have your protein, chicken, fish, or whatnot, that's a pretty vibrant looking plate. And lo and behold, it's going to be healthy for you. As opposed to if you look down at your plate and you have a very bland looking plate, like if you have like a lot of pasta or just pasta and bread, which is a common thing to eat. People like their spaghetti and their side of Italian loaf bread, but it's very bland looking, hence definitely not as healthy for you. Snacks in this diet would be orange, carrot sticks, celery sticks. And so, that's a really great typical day's menu. I saw this in the research on the paleo diet, which I thought was very, very important to put in here because um, just because of the idea that now we really don't get as much physical activity as we should. Um, you know, I, the diet also emphasizes the need for drinking lots of water and being physically active every day. Think of back in the caveman days. They certainly weren't getting, they weren't going through a drive-through. They weren't getting takeout. They weren't having food delivered. They had to really, really work for all of their food. Not only did they have to work for it, but just the physical activity and demands of how far they travel to maybe get their protein source or shoot their bison or their deer, or whatever animal, mammoth, I guess you could say, back in that day, they were hunting for protein. That's a lot of work, and we don't invest that much work into getting our food sources anymore. It's really about convenience, You know, efficiency, time management. We want quick and we want easy. I always say that, you know, that's the one thing that we can't buy any more of, and it's time. And we try to fit so much into the limited days that we are awake. That food is one of those things that are being micromanaged too and fit in there. So we're getting the takeout and we're getting the fast foods. So, you know, to really, really emphasize the drinking a lot of water and staying physically active on this diet is very, very important. So, that in a little bit of a nutshell is the paleo diet. The paleo diet did allude to the salt as things to avoid in this diet. So, what I would like to go next to is going to be the DASH diet. All right, here we go. And I'd like to share my screen with the DASH diet here. All righty. So the DASH diet. The DASH diet, DASH stands for Dietary Approaches to Stop Hypertension. It was really developed to lower blood pressure without medication. And it's proven quite effective. The first research showed that DASH could lower blood pressure as well as in the first line blood pressure medications, even with a sodium intake of 33 milligrams a day. You know, and that's just throwing a number out there. A lot of people don't even know what recommended sodium intake should be. And based on a 2,000 calorie diet, it should be about 2,000 milligrams a day. 2,000 milligrams a day of sodium is extremely easy to get, especially if you're eating processed foods, boxed foods, packaged things like the gravies and the mix-in cheeses that go in that mac and cheese that Kraft makes. There is a ton of sodium in those processed foods. Hence the reason why, you know, as we were going through our grocery store tour back some classes ago, there was a huge, you know, just recommendation to try to stay out of those middle aisles. Those middle aisles are where you're going to find those processed foods. And when someone processes a food, you know, the good things about it is that it has a long shelf life. You know, it's not just a day and that thing has expired or gone bad or gone rotten. Processed foods, when you process them, you have to put some salt in there to preserve them. And that's what you're going to find in most of those middle aisles and in most of those quick and easy processed foods that we have. The DASH diet plan is rich in fruits, veggies, low fat, non-fat dairy. It includes mostly whole grains, lean meats, fish and poultry, nuts and beans. It is high fiber and low to moderate in fat. It's a plan that follows US guidelines for sodium content along with vitamins and minerals. And in addition to lowering blood pressure, the DASH eating plan lowers cholesterol. And that is definitely just kind of like a consequence of, because once you start really trying to limit your salt intake, you're probably going to be limiting your intake of heavily processed meats, you know, those meats that are in the packages, the turkeys and the hams, and organ meats as well. So the things that are definitely high in saturated fat. It's a healthy way of eating, designed to be flexible enough to meet the lifestyle and food preferences of most people. And it, you know, it can be kind of considered an Americanized version of the Mediterranean diet, which we'll go over next. And it's easy to follow since it has kind of like more specific guidelines. You know, those are the kind of things that with diets right now, you know, some people are just like, I don't understand it. I don't know. So they're really trying to be super, super specific in some of the diets now, really gearing and trying to gear you towards understanding certain things about them, which is great and good. But also remember, you know, these are diet trends, they're diet fads. The reason why people tend to go on a diet is probably due to overconsumption of something. We're most of us, we all started out at one given point in our lives, kind of at ground zero, and that's when we were born. And then our diet and our lifestyle kind of developed from there. Unfortunately, just through who knows what factors in your life, you might have overconsumed in certain areas, and that might be an overconsumption of sodium. Hence, the recommendation of the DASH diet. It might be an overconsumption of sugar, which there's just a ton of adult onset diabetes cases every year. So, just kind of also remember the reason for going on a diet is because, we've already got to a place where we need modification here. We need to consume less of something. Who should follow the DASH diet? It's really kind of a healthy eating plan for everyone. Really, it just is kind of like a nice kind of family diet. And of course, it was developed to help people lower their blood pressure, but it also provides tons of heart health benefits, including lowering cholesterol and inflammation. Inflammation isn't talked about a lot, but there's a lot of research right now around the foods that cause internal inflammation. And once we recognize what those foods are for ourselves, diet and lifestyle is a lot easier to manage. And that certainly is another whole other class that we could teach just on inflammation. New research shows that it's effective in lowering blood pressure in children as well as adults. High blood pressure in kids never really used to be a thing. But, as we have gotten very busy, not paid as much attention to our children and their diets, not just our own diets, but their diets as well, there's a lot of kids being diagnosed with diabetes and many kids being diagnosed with pre-hypertension at this given point. So kind of how does it work? It kind of provides more key nutrients, things like potassium, calcium, magnesium, all of which are very key and associated with low blood pressure and keeping your blood pressure in a healthy range. These key nutrients are boosted by including more fruits, veggies, low-fat, non-fat dairy in your diet. And some people see additional benefits by lowering sodium or salt in their diet. So the DASH diet plan. I wanted to also throw here just a little graph kind of on what the recommendations are on the DASH diet plan. And as you can read here, it's just goes down through, tells you how much of each thing that you should have per week. And, I always say too, if we just focused on getting enough of the good things, then we probably wouldn't have room for the bad things, which is kind of true in itself. But that's also a whole other class with the difference between, our hunger and our appetite scale. So once again, here's just a little chart for you to kind of just look at what the DASH diet plan is and what the recommendations are. And you will have this handout that you can look over. All right, and our next diet is going to be, as alluded to in the DASH diet, is going to be the Mediterranean diet. And I will share my screen here. Okay. All right, the Mediterranean diet. Many people know what this is. Many people, source their nutrition and their lifestyle after the Mediterranean diet. It's definitely, once again, it's a personal preference type of diet, but it's pretty well-rounded. The Mediterranean diet typically includes lots of fruits, veggies, bread and other grains, potatoes, beans, nuts and seeds, and olive oil is its primary fat source in this diet, and dairy products like eggs, fish, and poultry in low to moderate amounts. And as you'll notice here, they're not really mentioning red meat at all. There's not hardly any, if any, red meat that's really focused on in this diet. And what they want you to do is they want you to focus on that olive oil as your source of fat, and your fish and poultry, your fish for your omega-3 fatty acids and your good fats, and poultry as your kind of your protein source there. Um, and, back in the day before we kind of almost were forced as a culture to make changes to our food guide pyramid. This was kind of what our food guide pyramid in the base of it looked like. Our old food guide pyramid used to focus on, breads and grains as like the staple, and that was the base of our old food guide pyramid. Now it has a completely different base. Exercise is in that big long bottom base of our new food guide pyramid. um, the good thing is, though, I think that one of the common things that has stayed is that, those sweets and those high sugar foods are still in very, very small amounts in all the diets. In the Mediterranean diet, fruit is a common dessert instead of sweets. I, for one, always one to bring a fruit-based desserts if I asked to bring a dessert to any kind of function or whatnot. It's typically strawberry shortcake with angel food cake, just because you can get away with a very low calorie, satisfies the sweet tooth dessert with just some angel food cake and a little bit of strawberries with some sugar, just for a little bit of that juice. Um, and it's a great dessert. And it doesn't have to be a heavy, heavy, very saturated fat laden um, type of dessert to be enjoyable. So, is the Mediterranean diet a healthy way to eat? And year after year, it is true. The Mediterranean diet comes out on top as one of the best diets. It's the easiest to follow, and it has enough, I think, flexibility and leniency so that people feel as though they're not super restricted. It's been known as one of the healthiest by many health organizations and dietitians. So, does it live up to that reputation? Excuse me. The American Heart Association certainly thinks so. It thinks that, it has such a great focus with the foods that it focuses on, and that moreover, this style of eating can play a big role in preventing heart disease and stroke and reducing many of the risk factors such as obesity, diabetes, high cholesterol, and high blood pressure. And that is kind of one of the big things that I like to point out about this type of eating and this lifestyle of nutrition, is that the trickle down effect of the other things that it has such positive impacts on is amazing. It kind of helps us to just, completely omit the fact that we could ever fall susceptible to adult onset diabetes. And there is some evidence that the Mediterranean diet, rich in virgin olive oil, may actually help the body remove excess cholesterol from the arteries and keep the vessels open. We have talked in classes before about, the reasons for that high, what's called HDL count in your over and total cholesterol, and this is it right here. To have a good high density lipoprotein count is fantastic because those are your pipe cleaners. When you eat all the bad stuff and the saturated fat, all those little globules kind of stick on the walls. And with a high HDL, you have a lot of good stuff in your blood that act as your pipe cleaners to go right down through and clean that stuff out. And so it's great. You want a lot of the cleaners in your blood. And once again, just to, give a little diagram of kind of what it shows here, what the food diagram would look like if you're on the Mediterranean diet. Breads, pasta, couscous, polenta, grains, potatoes are on the bottom. And then there's a nice separation there of fruits, beans, and nuts and veggies. And then all the way up through. And you are definitely seeing the sweets and red meats at the top as the things that you should eat in most moderation in your diet. So, it's great research on this diet, fantastic. But once again, always remember too, is this diet right for me? We are all starting at different points. We are definitely not starting from ground zero when we're talking about nutrition as it relates to different diet and food trends. Just think about, will this achieve the goal that I'm looking to do? Would this help me to reduce the risk factors that I might, those boxes I might be checking off when I'm at my PCPs? All righty. And now we have, okay, let's go to the keto diet. So the keto diet, big hot one in the past few years. And lots of questions around the keto diet. My very first thing that I always say if someone is contemplating whether or not the keto diet is the right thing for you to be focusing on would be to talk to your doctor about this. There's a lot of different things on both sides of the fence, pros and cons about the keto diet. There's a lot of misconception about the keto diet as it relates to another diet back in the day called the Atkins diet. It is not the same as the Atkins diet. The keto diet is not one that, it's just a matter of just protein and fat and zero carbs. The keto diet has definitely a little bit more scientific research and medical backing, and has definitely, broken down and for people, what to really look at as far as if you're going to try to go to a very low carb lifestyle. What is the keto diet? The keto diet works simply by restricting carbohydrates to 20 to 30 grams per day, which forces cells to release stored fat. Your liver converts that fat into ketones, which uses energy. Hence, the end result is you lose weight, and as the body gradually adapts to burning fat, you have less hunger and cravings, and your health improves. Absolutely agree with all of that little paragraph there. But once again, please remember, it's right there. It already gets a little fuzzy for people. 20 to 30 grams per day. Well, how do I know if I should be having 20 or if I should be having 30? Once again, it all goes back to you as a specific individual. It is based on your height, your weight, your gender, how many calories you should be taking in every day. These are all things you really should be talking to your doctor, your nutritionist, your dietitian about, so that you make sure that it is really specific to you. They throw out percentages, they throw out ratios of what you should be eating, but get some, expert advice on how to break this all down so that it's specific to you. How does the keto diet work? Keto works by lowering the hormone insulin. That's a big word, right? That's responsible for fat storage. Insulin is a key that unlocks the cell to allow sugar to enter and be used for energy. With low sugar energy, muscle glycogen, the cell reverts to the alternate energy source, which is fat. Your stored fat is released as fatty acid, and your liver converts those into ketones. And you use the ketones as the energy, basically. What are the advantages? Simple keto diet definition. The word keto, it's short for ketogenic, and it just means your body is breaking fat down into ketones and you're using that for the energy. Very important sentence right here. To enter ketosis, you need the right ratio of carbohydrates, fats, and proteins, which leads to this common question. Okay, so it's just how many carbs on keto should you eat? Very important statements with these paragraphs right here, because you need to maintain this kind of diet. If you are an individual that feels as though they can live by ketogenic diet, it's doable for them, fantastic. If you can sit back and self-reflect and know that you are a what they call a yo-yo dieter, and you're kind of on again, off again type of thing, this diet might not be for you, because you have to think about what kind of the prescription is for this diet, and you have to think about what that does to you. So the prescription is for you to, eat a diet that is carbohydrate free, pretty much carbohydrate free. 20 to 30 grams a day is not that hard to get in carbohydrates. There's carbs in everything. So to eat the prescribed amount of carbohydrates, fats, and protein, most of your diet's going to be coming from fats, which if you are not really knowledgeable about understanding what some of the good healthy fats can be, you might find yourself in a pickle. You might be doing a lot of heavy creams. You might be doing a lot of butter, which also can equate to saturated fat. So if you can maintain this type of diet as a lifestyle, fantastic. If you feel as though you probably couldn't, be very careful. I don't want people to kind of what I call double whammy themselves, and eat along the keto diet plan. Great, it's perfect, it's awesome for a whole month. And then you have a week where you binge carbohydrates. Your body is not staying in ketosis when you do that. And so all you've really done is you've not only taken in a lot of fat and a lot of protein. Hopefully you know what kind of fats are taken in, but if you don't, you've taken in a lot of those other things, and now you've just loaded yourself up on a lot of simple sugars as well. Well, actually ineffective, and you've double whammied yourself. Now you have a high fat, high protein, high sugar diet. And so, people are finding that if they can do this as a lifestyle, it's working great. But if they can't, what some of the research has shown is just that people will lose the weight, and then they'll actually put weight back on, and they'll put it on above and beyond kind of wherever they started their journey. So, just some things to be wary of with a keto diet. I am an individual on a personal level that I don't ever knock a diet plan, because if it is going to be the thing for you that motivates you to get interested, to get learning more about your health, to get learning more about proper nutrition, then go for it. I know we're all motivated by change. And if this is the type of thing that gets you jump started and gets you seeing change and gets you motivated, not only just, physically motivated, but in an educational sense, motivated to learn more, then absolutely. You're going to get more interested as you're feeling motivated. You're going to want to start learning, what is appropriate for me. You might make the decision on your own that this isn't appropriate for you after a while, but maybe it is. So once again, this definitely isn't a class for me to state opinions. But it's more or less just to weigh the pros and cons of all the different diets that are out there. What this page that you have access to kind of does now is it just gives you an example of how many carbs you should have, just according to what your diet looks like. So you can kind of calculate that. You can calculate that for yourself. If, and I'm just going to go scrolling right down to the second paragraph under how to calculate your carb intake. For example, if you're consuming 2,000 calories per day, but that is not everyone's caloric needs, that's just the recommended daily allowance on the average individual, and you aim to get 10% of your calories from carbs, then you're going to multiply 2,000 by 0.10, and you're going to get 200 calories a day. And this is when you need to kick in some of your education too. So if it's 200 calories a day, you need to know that 1 gram of carb equals 4 calories. You'll then take 200, divide that by 4, and you'll know that you're going to get 50 grams of net carbs per day. And that one little 3-letter word there is a big word as well, net carbs. Many people don't understand the difference between just the back of a label and when it says this is how many carbs are per serving. And then for some reason on the front, it says something different, like, oh, and this is the amount of net carbs. Once again, another big class in itself, but there is a difference between, the total carbs and net carbs. So maybe something for research for everyone to look up to kind of, if you're interested in this kind of diet plan. It then does go on, to just show you how to calculate your protein intake and your fat intake. So, let me see here. And when we all know too that, and I mentioned this before, that one of the main mistakes on keto is not eating enough fat. But for the longest time, nutritionists declared that fat, particularly saturated fat, was bad, which led to the low fat craze of the 80s and the 90s, when all we saw was low fat this, low fat that on every package of everything. I mean, that science has definitely been debunked. It definitely lacks any significant data showing connection between a high fat diet and increased risk in heart disease. But also remember too, there is a difference in the different kind of fats that we take in. And we have done the label reading, and there is different kind of fats. There's saturated fat, there's polyunsaturated, monounsaturated, there's trans fat. So just be really careful when you're looking at some of the food labels to understand your fat. So you can go all the way down through. You can calculate your protein, your total carbs. Then you'll get your remaining calories from the fat sources. So this is kind of just a little graph on, this is your breakdown. This is what your diet should consist of on the ketogenic diet. And there is only 5 to 10% of it that's carbs. I can probably say with most certainty that they're not saying carbs and sugar, simple sugar. They are probably talking about the very complex carbohydrates that we need, which is typically what we used to use for our food source. A complex carbohydrate is, there's, for example, there's carbs in a lot of your root vegetables. But they're still very healthy root vegetables. Sweet potatoes, lots of carbs in there, but they're the good kind of carbs. They're the carbs that you want to be eating on this ketogenic diet. So 70 to 80% from fats, 20 to 25% from protein, and 5 to 10% from the carbs. I just highly would suggest, if this is something that you're looking into, talk to a qualified individual about it, and make sure that you're getting percentages and that you're breaking down your diet in a way that's very specific to you. And I think that was a lot of the misconception with the Atkins diet. They were on the right path with the protein piece of it. But I think keto did a lot better job at just explaining, well, no. It's not just eat all the protein, bacon, burgers that you want to without a bun. It's more of, a guided ratio of the different fats, protein, and carbs in a way that isn't going to be unhealthy for you. So I think the ketogenic diet has done great thing and has a lot of research for its backing. And I just hope that people, if you decide to take this kind of diet on, that you really look at it and talk to a qualified person. All righty. And one more diet here that we have to go over. And that is Weight Watchers. Okay. One of another big diet plans out there right now. Weight Watchers has been around forever, but they have really done some research, really done a lot with educating people, really done a lot with flexibility. There it's definitely a diet that's working with the population now in trying to get people to regulate and better their nutrition and their lifestyle around food. Um, the it's now called WW. It was formerly known as Weight Watchers. They've kind of starting to rebrand here. The program builds on the Weight Watchers Smart Point system, which assigns every food and beverage a point value. This diet is great in the fact that it takes a lot of the guesswork out. They have apps. You can do all this stuff online with Weight Watchers, and the good thing is that, like I said, it takes a lot of the guesswork out. It amazes me that you can find and look up in their library, I guess you call it, pretty much any food that you could possibly put in your mouth. And also there is pretty much every restaurant that you could possibly think of, and every food from that restaurant downloaded into their library. So if you go out to eat at Texas Roadhouse, and you want to know how many points one of their little cinnamon rolls are, I am sure you're going to find it in there. It is pretty amazing to me what they have for a library in there. And they've assigned everything a point system, which is great. Like I said, if you are one that just wants to take the guesswork out of all of this, just wants to know, okay, I get 35 smart points a day. This is how much this food is. This is how much this food is. It's fantastic. What it is not doing for you is that it's not teaching you how to read a food label. It's really not teaching you to look for all of those things on a food label. Is it low in sodium? Is it low in saturated fat? They've kind of built that into how many points they assign to it. So, how does it work? It guides members towards an overall eating pattern that's low in calories, saturated fat, sugar, and higher in protein. The new My Weight Watchers program offers participants lots of freedom and flexibility, making losing weight easier by leveraging members' food and lifestyle preferences. So what you do is when you go into Weight Watchers, and unfortunately, Weight Watchers is a program that you need to buy into. You need to have a membership. You need to pay a monthly fee to be able to have access to their logging capabilities, scanning capabilities, food journaling. There's a lot of things that you can do in their app. But that is also the downfall, is that it is a financial burden. And you can think about that as a financial burden, or you can think about that as financial accountability. I, for one, know if I pay for something, I'm going to use it. So if I pay for this, then I'm definitely going to make sure that I am logging my food. I'm going to get my money's worth out of this. So how it works is, you go in and you fill out your profile, and it kind of, according to how you fill that profile out, it kind of allows you to choose which group you want to be in, a green blue group, a blue group, or a purple group. Purple is a little more lenient. Green is a little more stringent, a little more strict, because it allows you access to what is called a lot of 0 point foods. And I know that sounds silly, but there are a lot of 0 point foods. And the reason that they mark them as 0 point foods is to gear you and actually get you to eat more of different foods. And as we talked about, a few diets back, if you tend to try to focus on eating a lot of the good foods, then you're probably not going to have a lot of room for the bad foods. So yes, you can be categorized as green, blue, or purple. And then you get kind of 0 point foods to build meals around, with a smaller smart points budget, I guess you could say, as you go up from the green to purple. Purple is Definitely you get a more modest smart points budget. In green, you kind of get a really large, broad kind of food mix to pick out, so that you can make a lot of different meals and plans with those foods. Um, on my Weight Watchers, each food plan has a certain amount of 0 point foods. Those with smart points value of 0. The plan with the longest list of 0 points has the lowest smart points budget, and the plan with the shortest list of 0 points foods has the highest smart points budget. 0 point foods help lay the foundation, like I said, for a healthier pattern of eating. And there's a low risk of actually overeating them. However, and I guess this is the appeal to a lot of people is that you can eat whatever you want. Just stay within your points. They don't tell you that you can't eat anything. It's just that it's going to let you know how many points are in that food, and then it's up to you and use your discretion. Okay, do I want to save all my points and do this and eat this? The reason that I like this kind of plan for people is that it allows you to do just that. It allows you to plan. If you know that you're going to have a social gathering around food that you didn't prepare, and it probably could be a little bit more unhealthy food in the evening, then you can plan throughout the day, to try to eat a lot of those 0 point foods so that you can save your points up so that you can have that dinner with your social gathering that night. That's the good thing. And people they like that appeal of the fact that there's no food that's off limits. It's just you need to be prepared of the amount of points that it will take away from your overall points for the day. Once again, and I just put on here too, kind of like what the cost is for joining Weight Watchers and being a part of that group. You can have the digital, which includes the Weight Watchers app, and you get 24/7 kind of chat service, I guess you could say, for $19.95 a month. And then, as you can read here too, you can get other plans, which one includes workshops, unlimited when we're back at the in-person workshops, for $44.95. Or if you don't want a monthly workshop membership, you can do the pay as you go if you want to join the workshop for $14 to $15 per week. You can even go as far too as getting personal coaching within the Weight Watchers app. You can get one-on-one support with a coach and access to a whole bunch of digital tools that they have. It is, definitely a little bit more costly, $54.95. But you can actually talk with a personal health coach, and work something out that's very much more specific to you. And none of these costs include food. There's not any required foods that you have to eat. There's no, shakes. There's nothing. They have a lot of branded food things out there now that say, Weight Watchers this or Weight Watchers that, but you don't have to buy any of those foods to be part of the plan. And those are just choices. And Weight Watchers encourages members to choose the foods they want, which helps make the program very suitable for the long term for people. And people like the flexibility with this. And there can be a lot of flexibility with this. I've known a lot of people that have had a lot of success on it. And then other people too, and like I said, one of the cons of it is that it's not really teaching you a lot about your food. It's just allotting a point value to the food, and so you don't know exactly why is that food more points than another food. We ironically we could probably say, it's based on, oh, does this one sound better or does this one sound better? If this one sounds better, it's more points. But as far as other things too, the only other con is definitely be the fees associated with belonging to the program. But lots of flexibility with this. So there you have it, everyone. We went over the 5 different food and diet trends that I have for this week. This will be uploaded onto your intranet there at MVH for you, and so you can view this Zoom meeting on there. And if you have any questions for me please feel free to reach out. I would love to chat about, some of the content and material for this class. I found it very interesting to create for you all. Um, please reach out to me via email, trobinson@omcwellness.com. If I have one-on-one set up with you during the course of the week, then I'll be talking to you then. If not, please don't hesitate to reach out to me to schedule one. Thank you all, and I hope you have a great day. Thank you. Bye-bye.